Not long after it's over, the people get sent home, and Jesus goes up to a mountain to pray. His disciples go back across the sea, and then he winds up going back across the sea with them. So we're about to see another notable miracle that happens the very evening, early the next morning, if you will, of the next day. So it says in verse 45 of Mark 6, immediately he made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, to Bethsaida, while he sent the multitude away. So as I said, the people go home. He sends the disciples to the other side in the boat. And then it says he, when he sent them away, departed to the mountain to pray. I just mentioned Jesus had a very active prayer life. He thanks God for food, but he does a whole lot more than that with his prayers. He's alone. He's on land. He goes up to pray. The boat, we find out, is in the midst of the sea. When evening came, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and he was alone on the land. He saw them straining and rowing, it says in verse 48, for the wind was against them. About the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea and would have passed them by. Here's another amazing miracle. It tells us so much of the power of Jesus Christ and his divinity. Here he is just walking on the water. The disciples are rowing. They're straining just as hard as they can, trying to get across. The wind is against them, and they're just not making any progress at all. Jesus is just walking along, and so much so, almost nonchalantly, he would have just walked right by them. If you can imagine walking on the water in such a way that you could just sort of nonchalantly pass by a boat that's with men in it, rowing with all their might, and yet Jesus is fully capable of just walking right by them. The text goes on to tell us, interestingly, as the story unfolds, that the disciples see him and they cry out in fear. He identifies himself. It says, when they saw him walking on the sea, they supposed it was a ghost and cried out. For they all saw him and they were troubled. You can only imagine out in a boat, in the middle of the night, in the fourth watch, which was 3 to 6 in the morning, you see something on the water. You can only imagine how your imagination might run away with you. But immediately he talked with them and said to them, "Be of good cheer, it is I, do not be afraid." Jesus doesn't want them to be afraid. He doesn't want them to be superstitious. He wants them to understand who he is. And so it says, he went up into the boat to them, and the wind ceased, and they were greatly amazed in themselves beyond measure and marveled. When the winds cease and they see Jesus, they understand what he's done. These men had seen Jesus do a lot of amazing things. They'd seen him calm a storm on this same sea. They'd seen him heal the sick all over the place, cast out demons, teach amazing things. And yet, again, they're amazed at what he's capable of doing. They'd seen him just, the evening before, feed 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish. What an amazing man Jesus was, because he's the God-man. He's God in the flesh. He's the Son of God, Emmanuel, God with us. And we're seeing that demonstrated before the apostles. It says they had not understood about the loaves because their heart was hardened. They hadn't understood about that miracle. At this point, they might not have really understood about a lot of the miracles, what those miracles were saying about the power of Christ. Well, when they crossed over, then the sea on this boat trip, they come to the land of Gennesaret, and they anchor there. They came out of the boat. Immediately, people recognized him, and they run to him from the surrounding region. They began to carry out beds with those who were sick, and wherever they heard he was. So people come to him, thronging to him again from the region. He's attracting large crowds. And it says in verse 56, wherever he entered into villages, cities, or the country, they laid the sick in the marketplaces and begged him that they might just touch the hem of his garment, and as many as touched him were made well. So Jesus is still doing many, many miracles. People are now fully believing that he has the power to do this. They're bringing sick people from all over the place. They're coming from all around. They see the miracles. They hear his teaching, and his popularity now is just at a zenith among the common people, particularly all around the Sea of Galilee. We've seen this going on for some time now, And it would be hard to imagine or overstate how popular and what a draw that Jesus had to people during this time of his ministry.